Today we get a great example that you gotta know when to use escalated force and when to bring it down a little bit. Hi everyone, welcome to today's bonus badge cam lesson here at Active Self Protection. I am your host as always, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, Mike Wilver. Today's video comes to us from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California.
Today's video is brought to us by Mantis. The Mantis family of products is integral to ASP staff building handgun and carbine skills and are your most economical and fastest path to improvement in your skills too. Whether you choose the X10, the Laser Academy, the Blackbeard, or use them all in concert, they will help your practice be more effective, efficient, and fun. Go check them out, pick up a unit, and thank them for sponsoring today's video. The surveillance footage here, you can see the officer come from the left and look from the right. There's this guy that's like dragging a dolly full of stuff that looks kind of weird, and he's twitching around like many Mexican Americans might. And this guy, then the officers are going to kind of just start to shine a light on him. What's going on here? They stick the calibrated thumb out there and look and go, that stuff's not right. And so start having a discussion with him, but he is not going to let them do that for too long. You can go watch the original with a lot longer badge cams and stuff and hear all the words that were said, but they're basically just asking this guy what he's doing and what's going on. So he's going to run. We got badge cam audio from here, and let's listen in and see what happens.
Gun. 406 on me, coach. 450 me out the gun. Foot pursuit. Eastbound Main Street. Approaching Hancock. It's gonna be Sergio Barreto. Gun. Drop the gun.
Drop the gun. Drop it, bro. Drop it, bro. Drop the gun,
406, we're gonna be running westbound in there. Officer needs help.
I got it.
This is the badge cam of the second officer, and you can see them light him up and watch him real careful. We'll see it a little later more. He actually throws something over the fence there, going to turn out to be a shotgun that is sawed off, and at those two shots, neither of them impacted the man, and he is then going to run off. And our officer that we have his badge cam right now is going to give chase, holster up his gun, and then going to chase this guy down. Let's listen in on more of the badge cam.
Give me a hand. Survive. What are you shooting? What the fuck are you shooting on? Get up against the wall. Don't even have anything on me, bro. Hey. I don't even have anything on me, bitch. Look at it. Dog. Why the fuck is that shooting at me for, dog? I didn't even have a stick, fool.
Hey. 406 for me, Code 6. Nice Central.
Dog, I didn't even have nothing on me, fool.
You better stop, bro. You better stop, bro. Hey, relax. Put your arms behind your back.
What the fuck you guys shooting at me for, dog?
Hey, I'm telling you, bro. Put your arm behind your back, bro.
Bro.
Put your arm behind your back, bro.
Why the fuck you guys shooting at me for, dog?
406, 19 Johnson. 19 Johnson.
Why the fuck you guys shooting at me
Hey,
for, dog?
put your arm behind your back.
Dude.
Put your arm behind your back.
What the fuck you guys shooting at me for, dog?
Get the cup.
That's good. I'm gonna tell you, motherfuckers, how about you, dog.
Hey,
I'm gonna tell you what you guys did, dog.
man.
You gonna let me go, dog. You gonna let me go, dog, trying to kill me and shit.
No.
Yeah, you did, dog. What the fuck were you shooting me for, dog? I'm gonna tell you, motherfuckers, dog. I just stay quiet, man. Hello? You guys just fucking don't try to kill me. They gonna let me go, fool. Nah, fuck that. You guys go still, dog. What you guys shooting me for, dog?
Hey, you put your arms behind your back,
Why you
boss.
shooting me?
Hey, put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
Why you shooting me, dog? Why you
Put
shooting
your hands
me
behind your
for?
back.
Why you shooting at me, fool?
Your hand in your back.
Nah, you guys better go, man. Why the fuck you shooting at me for, Jake? Why you shooting at me for, dog?
I'm telling you right now.
Why you shooting at me for, Jake? Why the fuck you motherfucker shooting at me, dog? Why you shooting me for, dog? You better let me go, dog. Let me go, dog. Why you
I'm gonna tase you, bro.
Why you got
Tase
shooting
him.
me for, dog?
Tase him.
Arms behind your back. Put your arms behind your back. You're gonna get it again. Put your arms behind your back or you're gonna get it again.
Why the fuck you almost? Why you trying to kill me for, dick?
Wanted for Eagle 450 man with the he was last seen running northbound in the East-West Valley, Lane and Johnston.
Arms behind your back.
Why the fuck you shooting me
415.
for?
19
Why you
Johnston.
shooting me for, dick?
You can get it again.
Suspect is not in custody.
Fuck that.
Hey, you're gonna get it
You
again.
can get it again.
Why
They're just
gonna
going to
get it
the backup
again.
location 19 Johnston.
Put your hands behind your back.
Fuck that. Why you shooting me for?
Put your hands behind your back.
Why you shooting me for? Why you shooting me for?
You can get it again.
415
Why
was
you trying
the
to kill me
description
for,
of the
dog?
suspect.
Put your hands
Nah,
behind your back.
fuck you, fool.
Hey,
Watch,
you're
motherfucker.
gonna
Watch
get it
when I
again.
see it. Watch.
You're gonna
Watch
get
when
it
I
again.
talk to them, dog.
You're gonna get it again.
You can get it again.
Huh?
You can get it again.
For what?
Put your hands back.
Put your hands behind your back.
Smith, come up, give us the truth to the suspect.
Fire 6 goes with the suspect.
15.
Fire 15 goes with the suspect. 19 Johnson.
We need a description of the suspect.
Suspect, male Hispanic, gray hoodie, white shirt, blue shorts.
We're gonna be just north of
We're just gonna be north of the liquor store on Johnston, north of Maine. Turn over and put your hands on your back.
The liquor store, where are you at? Get your flashlight.
Turn over. Turn over.
Nah, fuck that.
Turn over. Turn over. Turn over.
Fuck that, fool.
Control cell, right, guys. He's gonna be on Johnson on the west side of the street. You want to
Come here.
north.
Hey, I got it.
unit over to mid-block. Rooftop south side mid-block.
I got it, bro. I got it.
Like I said earlier, the man was not hit by either of the rounds that were fired. He was transported to the hospital to have the taser barbs removed. He's facing assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer charges, as well as felon in possession charges and possession of narcotics while possessing a firearms charges. And we are going to think about lessons. Man, I don't know what it is with cops and one-handed shooting. They just gotta do the thing, I guess. And man, it's not like we go over on Active Self-Protection Extra and teach people how to drop stuff out of their hands.
For free.
Mike, this one is a little bit, shall we say, disconcerting.
Indeed. You know, I think people who watch these videos and listen to our analysis think that we either love or hate the cops. We're trying to call balls and strikes here. I will say all the nice stuff up front. I like to see officers out there hunting for criminals, looking for actual bad guys, doing real police work.
And felons in possession of sawed-off shotguns and doing bad, crooky things are those guys.
100%. And they know this guy's up to something. They can't prove it yet, but he's up to something. What are you doing? How you doing? Shine a light in his face a little bit. And, you know, all of a sudden he's running. Now I have probable cause to stop him. So I love the aggression. I love that they're out there hunting for bad guys. It's just that almost everything that happens after this is cringeworthy.
Yeah, it's not the best work that we've seen on the channel for sure. So he sees a guy, sees the fact that he has a gun. Again, it looks kind of weird. It's an old style single shot shotgun that's had the stock removed from it and the barrel chopped off of it. So they're going to chase this guy a good long way. I will say, I think that their use of the pistol mounted light, this is why officers need a pistol mounted light. You can see it's not completely dark around them, but a really good high candela pistol mounted light lets you, when you've got a suspect who has a gun, get more light on there and be able to see better and through these photonic barriers.
Absolutely. You know, this is a very dynamic lighting environment. There's different shades of light. There's different amounts of light in different places. I do want to point out a moment ago, the officer did a great job of dipping the muzzle of his gun as the other officer was passing in front of him. Light, you know, people kind of, it's almost a joke now in the comment section about talking about lights, but it's critical. You know, you go around a corner, all of a sudden it's almost pitch black. You only have ambient light from the rest of the city. And then all of a sudden you're under a street lamp. So having that light is absolutely critical. And you can see here, it's lighting them up like a Christmas tree from, I don't know how far that is, but maybe 15, 20 feet.
And I say, you know, as a private citizen, I don't think a private citizen is required to have a light on their concealed carry handgun, but for every officer in their duty handgun, I think having a light on the gun is mandatory, if at all possible, under the policies of your department. And more bright is more better. It should be a high quality brand. 2 answers there that work. Streamlight and Surefire. Also Mod Light now makes a good one, so I guess 3 brands there. Now, if you notice, this is when the officer decides to take the shot. I've kind of zoomed it in here, and you can see there's a blob. But if you look at it in its context, what he's doing there is he's actually lowering his arm in order to toss the shotgun up over his shoulder. But that looks exactly like a guy who is turning his shoulders towards the officer with a gun in his hand, which is absolutely what we would call what a reasonable person would look like. He's pointing that shotgun at me. We call that a furtive gesture.
And we already know the officers believe him to be armed. They said drop the gun at least once at this point. So
yeah, bunches.
So what do they have? They have a guy who ran for reasons unknown. We have a guy who is in possession of a firearm who probably shouldn't be, and we can guess that, just infer that from the circumstances. And now we have him running down a oddly lit alley, and it looks like he's taking that gun and he's doing something with it, and that something could be very, very bad. I think the shots were justified. I would like to see them slow their roll a little bit before they pull the trigger, because man, trying to hit a target at this distance while you're running at full sprinting, unstable platform is kind of unlikely. As we see here, neither one of these shots did actually hit.
And the big problem why the shots didn't hit is he is doing so one-handed. So he is moving one-handed against a moving target, trying to hit shots. And why is he only using one hand on the gun, Mike?
Can I just quit this job now? I don't want to talk about it anymore. He has his radio in his support hand. We saw this in New York recently. We're seeing in LA all the time. LAPD is a proud organization. They have excellent training. They have a phenomenal command staff. Everything about them is to be commended. But this weird artifact, this weird, what would you call it, tradition that they don't have pork chop mics, or they don't have surveillance kit mics or something, so the radio can stay on their hip. There's really no reason for your radio to be in your hand at this point. You're potentially in a running gun battle. Nothing you're going to say on the radio is going to make this end any better than it would otherwise do. But having 2 hands on your gun might have ended it right then and there.
Yeah, and was definitely a necessary thing. So neither of those shots hit. Okay, fine. Guy ends up getting up. Now let's look at it from the other perspective and the other angle here. Again, lighting him up, and you can kind of see here what he ends up doing. I do want to note that from this angle, the officer can very clearly see he has that gun, and it's, again, a sawed-off shotgun in his hand. And so why does this officer not fire? He actually has 2 hands on the gun at this point. But whether he decided, man, I see him as kind of tossing the gun, or I just don't think I can make that shot from this kind of distance, I just want to point out that 2 people in a very close proximity can see things slightly differently, and because of who they are, make different decisions, and yet they're in the same incident.
We saw this recently in another video where there was a young boy, middle of the night, parking garage, and one officer was clearly observing a firearm in the driver's side of a vehicle, while the other officer who was standing to the right of the vehicle did not see that. Yeah. So we have one officer actively shooting another officer with her gun in the holster. It's just a matter of perception. And again, these badge cams, I think, can be deceiving at times. We're not seeing what the officer's seeing with his Mark 1 Mod 0 eyeballs. We're seeing, 720p at best, grainy, poorly lit thing. So they're seeing this a lot better than we are. I think once they realize, okay, he's tossed it over the fence, they transition at that point rightly to something other than their firearm, because now it's time to give chase and not be shooting.
Yeah, and of course, once we see this here, because we can slow it down, as you see what he's done is he's tossed that gun kind of up over, a fence into a yard, and that's going to be where all this whole thing comes up of, what, I didn't have anything on me, dog, or whatever, and so, of course, every single person in prison is completely innocent of their crimes, right?
If I had a nickel for every time someone told me these aren't my pants, or, I didn't have anything on me, when they very clearly threw a thing away during a foot pursuit or a vehicle pursuit, if I had a nickel, John, I would have so many nickels.
I would have a lot of nickels. You would. I never did that job. And I do think it's interesting, though, because now when he ends up tossing that gun, now, of course, it changes. We don't have an armed fleeing felon at that point. We have an unarmed felon, and so we're going to put the guns away and go hands-on with these guys. And I got to admit, watching this whole thing go down, watching them struggle with this guy, I don't understand why they don't put this guy on the ground, Mike.
Yeah, this whole thing is really quite ponderous. I'm not sure. I don't understand what I'm looking at right now. Single leg takedown, anything to get him on the ground, get a knee on his shoulder blade, and get him into custody. Because all this back and forth, this is just, like I said earlier, I hate to say it, it's kind of cringeworthy. This guy could have been in custody a long time. You got 2 officers, you got 1 bad guy. do something effective. Trying to cuff someone who's standing when they don't want to have their hands behind their back is extremely difficult. So he needs to be on the ground in some way, shape, or form and cuff him that way, because this is clearly not working.
And I think that's probably the big thing here. Now, of course, he gets away, and then finally we see him, oh, okay, fine, tase him, and the taser works in this case. Great, good job. I was actually expecting it not to because of the loose kind of cover garment the guy had, but it worked and it was okay. But they're still sitting there with this guy, and instead of using it again, no, put it behind your back. I'll give you some more juice. If you want some more Pikachu, you can have him. They just kind of sit and argue with the guy.
This is absolutely ponderous. I don't understand. The minute he's down and disabled from the taser, you need to be on top of him, getting his hands behind his back. I mean, he's thrown the gun away. You need to get in there and get something done, because this just looks awkward and weird. I don't understand this conversation. Hit him again with the taser, get him on the ground, get him into custody. Because what you don't want is to have to run again.
And not only awkward, but unsafe.
Yes.
This is unsafe for the suspect. It's unsafe for the officers. Because again, at any moment, he could decide, I'm going to pull this prong out, I'm going to get violent again, I'm going to start taking swings at you. And instead, if you get him into custody, now that danger has passed. Not only for the officers, but for the suspect. Getting him into custody makes better sense.
I got to say this. I don't know if it's because of the political climate in general in this country or in California, but I'm just seeing a lot of officers and deputies relying on their less lethal tools and not being afraid for their safety going hands-on, but being afraid for their job, being afraid for civil liability. Because, 10 years ago, this guy would have been in cuffs already, because they would have been on top of him, delivering strikes, tactically delivering strikes to his body, wherever they have to do to get his hands behind his back. For some reason, we're standing around, and I feel like we're just asking for this to escalate again at this point.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, the guy finally kind of gives up. I think he gets bored of the whole thing. All right, fine, I'll roll over, put handcuffs on me. And so I think that the initial aggression from these officers and their initial work to get, hey, look, we found a bad guy doing bad things, and so we want to take him off the street. To be commended. The shooting part in the middle, skill set needs a little bit of work. The empty-handed skills and defensive tactics at the end, hi-ya, guys, let's do better.